company yellow fever within only a few years, and basically was the only survivor of his day. Now, he go on 35 more years. He became a recluse and hermit, of no friends or family. He left no will after he died, and his house remained vacant for 40 years after his death. Now, in 1931, the home was bought by a man named Gustav Pfeiffer for the price of $8,000. Now, Gustav Pfeiffer was the uncle of Paul Lee Pfeiffer, who was married to Ernest Hemingway. So bought the house, gave it to Ernest and Pauline as a late wedding gift. They lived through about 8.5 years from 1931 until 1939. As you go through the house, that's the time frame we're going to focus on primarily. After you finish up the tour, you guys had the photos come out through. And he named his phone after his wife Pauline, because that was the nickname he had for back at that time. Now, how many people here have read The Old Man at Sea? Show of hands. You do that already? Now, Santiago, from that book, is based on the name right up here, and that is Gregorio Fuentes. Now, he was the first mate and captain of the Pilar, also a really good friend of Ernest's. And a little fun fact, when The Old Man at Sea was published, he really wasn't all that old, considering he would live 50 years past that book's publication date, and he died at the ripe old age of 104. Now, in that 50-year span, he was alive during that book's publication. He never read a single page of that book. Now, maybe he was illiterate, maybe he didn't care, whatever. Now, the Pilar. Ernest died, left that book to Gregorio Fuentes, but today it's on display in Cuba at the Hemingway Home Museum over there. It's called the Fate of Egypt. Now, as we continue this tour to the next room, the dining room, you follow me right across the hall. When they left, gather around, we'll talk with you. This one can also come across this way as well. That little shortcut as we go right across this way as well. Split up the trash again. He's still married to Pauline at the time. He lied about being with Martha. You find that soon enough, and Pauline was very upset. So I want you guys to remember this, because it is going to tie in at the end of the tour when Pauline gets her revenge. Now, when you did marry Martha, it didn't last very long. People had huge egos and keep the same jobs all the time. Eventually, Ernest ended up in the hospital after a car accident. Martha was working overseas, so she had no chance to visit him. But it wasn't going very well. She did visit, and she would come up to the board. And that became his longest marriage of 16 years. She's lived until his death. Now, all combined, all four marriages, put them all together, that makes it 40 years of combined marriage. And during that time, he only spent about 7 months on the way, all the children. So he divorced in April, married in May, and in that. Older woman, I think it's pretty impressive. Now, altogether, they had 3 sons. First was Jack, and now his first wife, Hadley. The other 2 were Patrick and Gregory. Then he had Pauline. Jack did not grow up in his house. These 2 boys did. They grew up in the bedroom that's right upstairs. Now, Gregory here is holding a little white cat in this photo. That is Snow White. Now, that was the first polydactyl cat on the property, and it was a gift from a U.S. Navy captain back then named Stanley Dexter. Now, today, all 59 cats we have here on the property are all direct descendant of Snow White. So it goes back generations. But not inbred. We have surrogate mothers coming in right now. Right now, you have 2 unfixed males, actually. The other 57 are unfixed. Are fixed. So the breeding is much more controlled than it was back then. Now, we breed these cats today to keep that legacy alive. Back then, the Navy would breed the cats for their 6 toes because they thought it brought good luck out at sea. They also thought it was great for balance on deck and great for catching vermin, those big old ponds. It's pretty Here's the guys, and any of the cats who see you come out around the house, I'll make sure to point them out and name them. Don't know their names, I'll just make one up. We'll be all set. That being said, we're going to move on upstairs now. You follow me right on up. We're going to make a left into the nanny's room. Right this way. That's everybody now. All right, guys, this room here is the nanny's room. Ada Stern was a nanny, and she lived here for many years. Come on, I can fit you too, your last one, right? All right, so Ada Stern lived many years here until the boys got older. Then she moved out, and this became Pauline's sewing room. Now, first I want to talk about the photo up top of Hemingway in 1928. Now, this photo was taken in Paris, right before coming to Ki-Uweste, and I want to talk about the scar on his forehead. Now, Ernest was a heavy drinker. This happened after a night of heavy drinking when he came home, and he was trying to use the bathroom, went to flush the toilet. Now back then, you pull on a chain, you connect it to a water reservoir, you pull that chain and the water would flush. Simple as that. But nothing was happening when he pulled that chain. You try to get it again, still nothing. So then with drunken logic, he had the bright idea to throw all his body weight into that chain, and he found out the hard way it was the wrong chain. That one was actually connected to a skylight in the ceiling, came crashing down on top of his head, giving him that nasty scar and concussion. Now, they get 9 stitches after that, and that was actually one of 9 known concussions that he had in his life. So he was a very clumsy man. And very drunk most of the time as well. Now another funny story of being drunk and clumsy, that fishing boat downstairs, the Pilar. Now back then he would board that boat with a Tommy gun. He liked shooting at sharks out in the ocean. And one day he was doing that when he slipped and he shot himself twice in the leg. So a lot of accidents just like that. Next thing I want to point out, the photo down here, 1961, was taken in Ketchum, Idaho about 3 weeks before his death. Now the shotgun he's holding here would actually be the same one that he used to take his own life. Now, we know a lot more about traumatic brain injuries than we did back then. 9 concussions is quite a bit. It'll cause problems down the line. And so he was admitted to the Mayo Clinic about 6 months before this. He was diagnosed with manic depression, and he underwent 15 treatments of electroshock therapy. After that, he wasn't the same person anymore. He was a shell of his former self, so he got home and decided to end his own life only months later. Now, of course, it's tragic, but it also ran in the family. He had a grandfather, father, brother, sister, child, and grandchild that all went out the same way. They call it the Hemingway curse. It's definitely a tragedy indeed. Now, I'm going to get that out of the way. Next, I'll point out this wall over here. Now, Hemingway was a part of the lost generation in Paris. He had good friends like Gertrude Stein, Pablo Picasso, Salvador Dali, and F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's sort of pictured right up here on the wall. And before we go on to the next room, the fireplace, last thing I'll point out, if you wonder why is there a fireplace in Ki-Uweste, this is about as cold as it gets in the low 70s. Now, I mentioned Hasty Tip, just shipwrecker. Take these off people's boats, auction them off. Now they're square. Now, anything you could not sell, he keep for himself. Now, nobody wanted to buy a fireplace in Ki-Uweste, so here you have it, maybe as decoration. Next, guys, now we're going to move on to the next room, the boys' room right this way. So his 2 sons, Gregory and Patrick Gross. So head on in. And Oscar Wilde is looking through.
I won't say you'll enjoy it, but
regardless of what you may think you see in some of the photos on the walls, Ernest Hemingway was never actually in the military. He was a war correspondent. Now, he did try to join the Army back when he was 18 years old, and he was rejected due to poor eyesight. So he joined the American Red Cross instead and was made into an ambulance driver. Pretty strange with poor eyesight and all. But anyways, 2 months in, he was at the front lines delivering supplies to the men in the trenches when a trench mortar went off only a few feet away from him. It ended up killing the 2 men in front of him and severely wounded Ernest that it had 227 pieces trapped in his legs. Bomb went off. Now, he suffered tremendously. He was in the hospital around 6 months, 19 years old. The doctor said he was never going to be able to walk again. There's a photo right up here on the left. Now, they called him the Whistler back then because he would whistle at all the female nurses. They said he was a ladies' man. Agnes von Krauske was one of those nurses, and they ended up falling in love, even had plans to get married once he got back to the States. So that was his first love, should have been his first wife, and then he returned, and she sent a letter, letting him know the entire time they were together, she's already engaged to somebody else. Number 2, being that she was a few years older, about 7 years older at the time, she had always looked at him more as a son than as a lover, so pretty creepy. Like a friend zone, he was actually son zone, and he was heartbroken afterwards. So, some time passed, and then he wrote a farewell to arms based on the experience, and out of 47 different endings, he went with the one where he kills off the nurse in the last 2 pages. Now, after the war, he went back to Illinois, and he did have some PTSD symptoms. Now, he'd actually write down that for his entire life, he'd have a fear of falling asleep alone. And that may explain all those different wives and girlfriends. Probably not. You never know. Okay, so I'll point over here, that photo in the top left corner. Now, on the right over there is Ernest Hemingway. On the left is Captain Sloppy Joe Russell. That was the owner of the Sloppy Joe's bar in Wall Street. He had pointed out, we frequent that bar nearly every day, and they were best friends back then. So we'll point out. Next, I'll talk about, guys, this wall back here, the African Safari. Now, this is the 3-month expedition. Took place from December to February, 1933 to 34. Cost $25,000 back then. And today's money now be over $500,000. All paid for by Paulina's rich uncle, Gus Pfeiffer. Now, if you remember downstairs, he's the same one about the house. He paid for a lot of things back then. Now, you guys may wonder, what did this guy Gus Pfeiffer do to make all this money during the Great Depression? He actually had a very successful company with pharmaceuticals, and that company now sounds a lot like Pfeiffer. Today, that is Pfizer. He's a billionaire. He's throwing money around all over the place. Now, the wall here really interesting, but there's actually another safari I want to talk about, happened later in life, about 20 years after this one. It was 1953, when Ernest went after again. This time, he ended up going through 2 back-to-back plane crashes, all within 24 hours. And the first one was a failed emergency landing. We clipped the telephone wire and crashed in the brush. He was pretty fine. He camped it overnight. Actually, the second plane crash that really messed him up. Now, the rescue plane came in the morning, took off, and then nosedived. The 4th person in flames, he was trapped inside, had no way out. He was freaked out, decided to let me butt my head against the windshield over and over again. That's what he did. When he got out, there was severe concussion, broken collarbone, broken ribs, fractured skull. I don't know what he was thinking. He just wasn't using his head. After that, you have severe mobility issues. Had to do all his writing standing up, and he lived about 7 more years after that, but it was all downhill because he lived that time in pain from his accident. So again, really tragic stuff. You got 9 lives to live. Now we're going to move on. Now guys, we go out into the main bedroom on the right. All the way there. starting out the headboard here. Now, this was the gate to a 16th century Spanish monastery. Ernest liked it, so he bought it, brought it home, and converted it to this headboard here. So, as a chair, it's actually made for giving birth. It's a 17th century Spanish birthing chair, and Ernest loved these things. He collected them. They were actually his favorite fishing chairs back then. Take that all the time. Remember, there was no Bass Pro Shops back then, so he made do what he had. I guess these birthing chairs were great for fishing. Now, the painting up top was painted by Henry Faulkner and commissioned by the museum in 1975. Now, a little more of a timeline how the home became a museum. From 1931 until 39, Ernest and Pauline lived here together. Then they divorced, and Pauline stayed in the home another 12 years until he died in 1951. The home remained in Hemingway's name until 1961. After he died with two sons, Patrick, Jack, and Gregory, they decided to sell, win an auction for $80,000 to a woman named Bernice Dixon. Now, she's pretty smart. They declared this a National Historic Landmark in 1968, and the sons were furious about that. Maybe a tad bit jealous. They said they only sold for $80,000. Good idea they didn't think of. Now, it's actually pretty funny. Patrick Hemingway is still alive, 96 years old, and he still quarrels with the owners to this day about things. At that time, there's also been a lot of changes. But there's one room on the property, looks the same as it did back then, back in 1940, 1930, and that's the writing studio. Now, the writing studio is right outside and across the way, and we could not go there the tour. It's open to the public. We have limited time. So we finish up. I'll point it out again. Definitely worth checking out. If you go there every single morning, first light, he locked himself in that room, and he would not leave until he typed up at least 700 words. That adds up, and he completed around 70% of his life's work in that studio. His original typewriter is still in there, right on the table where he left it, so definitely worth checking out. Now, last thing I want to point out is the statue in the corner. We're getting out there, the Picasso cat's tail. Now, like I mentioned already, Hemingway and Picasso were part of the lost generation in Paris. The story has it, he traded the case of handmaids to that statue, went largely undiscovered until the 1960s. The museum owner, Bernice Dixon, found it, stored away the chest inside the studio. It was broken apart. So she glued it back together, and found out where it came from, and put it on display right here at the museum. Unfortunately, that is a replica today because the original was stolen 24 years ago. Now, in the year 2000, the tour guide came through, poured that out, and then 10 minutes later, it was gone. Now, they did find the guy who took it, police got involved, and they had a low-speed chase all throughout Ki-Uweste. Keep it very fast here. The guy took it, threw it into a dumpster, were broken to pieces again, and now we have this replica on display, unfortunately. So, it's a shame it happened to the original, but that is the story behind Picasso Cat's today. Thanks, guys. Now I'm going to head on out to these doors here, and we'll talk a bit more. Better be in that studio. Now, guys, we head straight on down this way. We have a beautiful view of the lighthouse. Why would they build the lighthouse so important? And this home was actually waterfront property. They became, they dredged out that way, expanded. But before that, the water was just right across the river. Started dredging in the late 1800s, finished in 1948. That's something to ask. what that area is for people. That's actually the wedding venue area. Doubles down as a litter box. Now we have about 200 weddings here a year. We're superstitious, keep in mind, this guy did have 4 wives. Maybe not the best place to get married. Come on, that's done right now.
Maybe they can be attendants.
Yeah.
Slap a little one again.
The second window on the right here, that bathroom there. Now, we call that Hemingway's bathroom with a view. Now, back then, he was a great multitasker. He's sitting on that toilet in the morning, his buddies would walk down Whitehead, and he'd roll the window up, flag him down, and hold a full-on conversation from right there on the bowl. That's pretty impressive, can't tell me otherwise. Point out that fountain down there, that's Hunter S. Thompson drinking out of it. That's put in by Asa Tift, the original owner of the home. You guys remember I mentioned that he was a shipwrecker and marine architect. Now he designed the ironclad warships back then for the Confederacy. That fountain was supposed to look like one of those ships heading out to sea. Like I said, the oceans out front have the same shape and design as one of those ironclad warships. Built in 1862. But now guys, we're gonna head around the corner now. We're gonna go down the stairs here, guys. Then we're heading down. Watch your heads, it's pretty low. Remember, people are a lot shorter 200 years ago.
And then after Snow breathed this out the center. Yeah. But after he died, what does he have a care to the son or something?
They look like y'all. She looks like you and he looks like you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where y'all from?
It's from Denver.
What? Say no back.
Okay.
And where you at?
It's Canada, Middle. It's Washington.
How much?
Left this right side, we'll gather around. All right. And the downstairs was a carriage house, upstairs was a hayloft. Asa Tift's time. Now when Ernest moved in, turned the upstairs into the studio, downstairs into a garage, and that's where he would keep his Model A Ford back in the day. Now today it's just a bathroom down there, so nothing exciting, but we're done. Definitely take the time to go on up, right at that left side of the stairs, you're gonna see a lot of really cool stuff. Next thing I want to talk about is gonna be the fountain right over here. Now, for a lot of you guys familiar with Sloppy Joe's bar again, this right here is actually a urinal. It came from the original Sloppy Joe's bar. Let's dive right into it. Now, back then, Sloppy Joe's bar was actually located around the corner they are today. It used to be on Green Street where Captain Tony's bar sits now. He moved locations after his landlord raised the rent from $3 a week to $4. It was $1 too much, Sloppy Joe's not having it. So he moved everything out of there, taking everything with him. And when I say everything, I mean everything. That's why there's a urinal in Hemingway's yard today. At the time, Ernest thought that he had flushed enough money down this thing over the years that it belonged to him. So he brought it home, gave it to Pauline as a gift. At the time, she wanted the fountain, she wanted some decorations, don't think she wanted the urinal, but she made it look nice and disguised it by putting the antique olive oil jar up top and the fancy Spanish tiles on the bottom. That is indeed still a urinal. It's seen cannot be unseen. Now today, cats will come drink out of it every now and then. It's pretty interesting. They love it. So what do you do? But now guys, last leg of the tour, we're gonna finish up right over here by the pool. We're gonna gather around and see that little outside.
Yeah. so well when we lived in Jackson.
What?
I had Chuck Letters drawn all over the place
Oh,
when we lived in
Alrighty guys, from 1931, like I said, there's been a lot of changes to the property. Now this pool was done here in 1931. It was actually put in 5 years later in 1936 while Ernest was in Spain. Now today, this is the largest residential swimming pool in Ki-West. You can't get licensed to build this big anymore. Now, back then it was also the first and only pool within 100 miles. Now at the time, the cement was drying, so Pauline picked that penny up, pressed it right back down in front of this green post, and that's where that penny stays to this day. Now she pressed that penny down because she didn't want Ernest to ever forget that episode that he had, and that penny would be a constant reminder. It also came to play later on when they divorced. She'd throw these giant parties, gather friends all around, and she'd tell them all about Hemingway. How he could have all the wives he wants and all the girlfriends he wants, but she would be the only woman who ever took it for his last penny. And it is right down there. It's a 1934 Denver copper penny. Thanks guys, it is the end of the tour. Again, my name's Larry. Any questions have been hanging out a bit. Hope you guys enjoyed the tour. I was trying my best. And again, feel free to go to the studio, please come through the house again, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
They have cats on them.
Supposed to rent it? And it's showing the black one that I have. It's in the office. It's got like stains on it.
You want to go outside?
He's just gonna stand there a little bit.
Let the cats in.
Did you see the
You guys sit here and say, yes, we want to outside, right?
It wasn't just me here. It wasn't just me. Heard
Yeah, our cameras for.
Okay, yeah, I heard a voice.
Oh, this is nice. That one's funny, except the typewriter. Oh, so this is the nice one. Here's your